All right. So, excuse me. This is a screencast detailing the PowerPoint I've developed for the thesis statement. I'm not going to have you answer the following question. I'll answer it for you. A thesis is a statement of the argument a writer is going to put forth in his or her paper. Now, the operative or important word here is argument, because a thesis statement is the portion of an essay that makes the argument. It is traditionally, and this will be mentioned later in this PowerPoint as well, it is traditionally the last sentence of an introductory paragraph, but it has to state what the essay is going to argue. So, element one of a strong thesis statement should take a stand. And this goes back to this idea of it being an argument. You must pick a side to argue, and you must take that side and make that stand. You should not have a thesis statement that is wishy-washy or straddles the fence. Example, you have a weak one. There are some negative and positive aspects to the banana herb tea supplement. If that were a thesis statement for a paper, it would be a relatively poor one, owing to its not taking a stand. Some negative and some positive would be a fine article if it were simply an informational piece, but because this would be an essay and this is a thesis statement, this is not argumentative enough, and it does not take a stand. Therefore, it is a weak thesis statement. This one's stronger. You can see that it takes a stand. It says, because banana herb tea supplement promotes rapid weight loss that results in the loss of muscle and lean body mass, it poses a potential danger to customers. This takes a stand. This says banana herb tea supplement, which is not a real thing, so don't go looking for it. Banana herb tea supplement is a danger to customers. That is this thesis statement stand, and you would expect, therefore, the remainder of this paper to present evidence as to why it is so dangerous to customers. Element 2 of a strong thesis statement. A strong thesis statement justifies discussion. What this essentially means is that your thesis statement should not be something that is factual or something that is not easily arguable, or to perhaps put it a different way, your thesis must present something that people would want to argue with you over. If it is something that is not really argumentative, it obviously can't work because a thesis statement is an argument. So here we have a weak thesis statement. The Beatles were a rock group and are still popular today. Both of those are essentially facts. They were a rock group and they are still popular today, whether you find them popular or not. If the Beatles release any albums, compilations, anything that goes back into their past catalog, it almost always, in fact, I think it always, as far as my experience has told me, debuts at number one. There are shows in Vegas about them from Cirque du Soleil still. They're still a very popular act. So this would not be a strong thesis statement because it is too obvious. Not too many people would want to argue this, and if they did, that's more a problem with them because it's not a very arguable point. This is stronger because of their ability to craft lasting melodies, to push the boundaries of pop music, and to improve with each record. The Beatles are the most important band in the history of popular music. That is strong in that the stand it takes that the Beatles are the most important band in the history of popular music is one that justifies discussion. It is something that people may want to argue about, argue over, would have an issue with. They might choose a different band as the best or the most important. A strong thesis, element 3, a strong thesis statement expresses one main idea. Another way to put this is the same thing essentially as prompt awareness. When you are writing an essay or asked to do so, you will be given a prompt. A prompt is the question you're being asked to respond to. What you need to make sure is that your thesis statement answers the prompt and sticks to whatever it is you've been asked to argue. If you've been asked to argue about video games, you stick to that. If you're asked to argue about banana herb tea supplement, you stick to that. Here we have a thesis because of their ability, very similar to the last one, because of their ability to craft lasting melodies, to push the boundaries of pop music, and to improve with each record. The Beatles are the most important band in the history of popular music, and 2 of the members are still alive. This would be a weak thesis statement because it has too many main ideas. You could probably assume the prompt asked to name or argue what is the most important band in the history of popular music. The fact that 2 of the members are still alive is immaterial. It doesn't make sense. It does not stick to the prompt. It does not stick to the main idea. Element 4, a strong thesis statement is specific. Specificity essentially is asking that your thesis statement be organized and developed so that you can handle it in the amount of time which you've been allotted. If it is a 4 or 5 paragraph essay that you have been asked to write, your thesis must be large enough that you can handle it in that amount of space, and also specific enough that you can handle it in that amount of space. So here's a weak thesis statement. World hunger has many causes and effects. That would be a very difficult paper to write in any amount of space. I'm not even sure a textbook could cover all of the causes around the world and all of the effects around the world of hunger. That would be a very difficult task to take on. It is far too broad of a topic. It is not specific enough. This takes world hunger, this thesis statement, this stronger thesis statement, it takes world hunger and it specifies it to hunger in the Appalachian region of the United States. And whereas the last week thesis statement had merely many causes and effects, this one specifies because jobs are scarce and the soil does not allow them to grow food to eat or to sell, and therefore hunger persists because they cannot make money nor can they grow food. The fifth element of a strong thesis statement is that it will preview the topic sentences. Now, in a traditional multi-paragraph essay, the thesis is the final sentence of the introductory paragraph. And when you're using the formula you will be asked to, if I look at a thesis statement that follows the formula, I would be able to tell how many paragraphs the essay is going to end up containing. Here's an example. Through his use of the thematic oppositions of day versus night and public life versus private life, Nathaniel Hawthorne conveys the idea that Puritan society is corrupt. This would be a thesis, of course, dealing with the Scarlet Letter. Now, I know by looking at this that this would be a 4-paragraph essay. I would have an introductory paragraph, which would end with this thesis. Then I would have a first body paragraph, which discusses day versus night. Day versus night here, and how the usage of day versus night, the examples, the concrete details, the textual evidence about day versus night in the text helps Nathaniel Hawthorne convey the corruptibility or corrupt nature of Puritan society. Body paragraph 2 would talk about public life versus private life, and how this element in the text and its examples therein help Hawthorne convey his belief that Puritan society is corrupt. This is the stand. Puritan society is corrupt, and this is what must be proven throughout the paper. Whenever a concrete detail is discussed, it must be with the mind that you are using it to prove this. Then the paper would end with a concluding paragraph. Therefore, we have an intro, body paragraph 1, body paragraph 2, conclusion, a total of 4 paragraphs. Because of their ability to craft lasting melodies, to push the boundaries of pop music, and to improve with each record, the Beatles are the most important band in the history of popular music. I'm going to pause for a moment, and I hope that you will try to take a guess as to how many paragraphs this essay, or an essay that uses this thesis, would contain. If you said 5, you're correct. That was a long pause, I suppose. But you would have their ability to, you would have the intro, Then you would have a paragraph about their ability to craft lasting melodies and how that helps make them the most important band in the history of popular music. You would have a second body paragraph about how they pushed the boundaries of popular music, and that led to them being the most important band in the history of said music. And the third body paragraph would deal with their ability to improve with each record, again, making sure that this is used to prove that they're the most important band in the history of popular music. The essay would then end in a concluding paragraph, which would give us a total of 5 paragraphs. This is another 4-paragraph essay, formatted differently because it is a non-fiction thesis. Hunger persists in Appalachia because jobs are scarce. Now, this one begins with the stand. The stand is that hunger persists in Appalachia, and the reasons being those 2 elements that this author would believe are the statistically most likely causes of said hunger. Here we have an example of a thesis statement, and it reads as follows: because of their ability to disrupt children's attention spans and their promotion of violence, video games should be banned. So this thesis does take a stand. Usually this quiz would be live, but it's not really. or that it takes a stand in that, yeah, video games being banned or should be banned is a stand to take. It's something debatable. So it certainly does take a stand. It doesn't say that video games should or maybe not should be banned. It's not wishy-washy. Okay, it's the same thesis statement. Does it express one main idea? Yes, the main idea would be the banning of video games. So you could imagine the prompt would have asked that. Please decide whether you feel video games should be banned and provide evidence to support your claim. Does it justify discussion? Yes, I'm sure many of you want to discuss it. Video games are very popular. Many people play them, including myself. And some of you, if video games are banned, would have not a lot to do on your weekends. Is it specific enough? Yeah, this could be handled in an essay quite easily. Does it preview the topic sentences? Yes, it does. And again, this would have been a game, but as you can see, it would be a 4-paragraph essay. It would have disrupted children's attention span as body paragraph 1, and how that means they should be banned. Their promotion of violence, body paragraph 2, and how that means they should be banned. Those 2 paragraphs would, of course, be sandwiched by an intro and a conclusion, and that would total 4. Okay, this is just to show, here's the thesis statement, and this would be, as you can see, the first topic sentence of the first body paragraph. And this is just to illustrate that when you conduct or compose your thesis, you must list your topics in the same order you will end up discussing them in your paper. So if the first topic you've listed is how video games disrupt children's attention spans, that would indicate that your first topic sentence and your first body paragraph, therefore, must deal with that same topic. And these are the 2 thesis formulas. Fiction. Fiction is the Nathaniel Hawthorne Scarlet Letter essay thesis. It is also the one following that. Now, this is how the formula works. Through the thematic concepts of day versus night and public life versus private life, Nathaniel Hawthorne conveys the idea that Puritan society is corrupt. So this just depends, these variables depend on how many paragraphs you're using. So these correspond to topics. So if you had 3 topics, you'd plug in 1 topic for each of these variables, you would have a 5-paragraph essay. If you had 2, like I just illustrated, it would just be X and Y. This is nonfiction. This is like the Beatles one because of their ability to craft lasting melodies, to push the boundaries of popular music, and to improve with each record. The Beatles are the most important band in the history of popular music. And that effectively ends this screencast.